Hey guys, Adam from Splendid Sports back for another Mickey Mantle Monday. The card that you see here on the mat, I'm going to talk more about it at the end of this video. I felt it was a fitting card to show based on what the topic's going to be here. This is a response to John Mangini's video that he posted yesterday, I believe, or Saturday, over the weekend. He posted a video laying out his case as to why Mickey Mantle is the second best center fielder in Yankees history behind Joe DiMaggio, and why Joe DiMaggio was a superior player and had a superior career to Mickey Mantle. Now, first off, John, great job. Hard to argue with any of that. And, if you look at the comments in that video, it seems pretty overwhelmingly in favor of your argument. Everyone pretty much agrees with you. But I did want to throw a couple points out here to the debate. If you've watched my videos before, you may know I'm a Mickey Mantle collector, but I do want to throw in a couple stats that John left out to spur on the debate maybe a little more. And look, we're talking about Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio, two of the greatest baseball players ever. It's kind of like if you said, who would you rather have, Mike Trout or Griffey Jr. as your center fielder? I mean, you can't go wrong with either one. These type of debates are a great part of the YouTube community, in my opinion. It's one of the best parts because these are the things that, people in your real life don't really want to talk about most of the time. So it's good to be able to do this here. Here's a few stats and a few things that I wanted to mention. Number one, Mickey Mantle's career on base percentage, .421. DiMaggio, .398. So Mantle with a higher on-base percentage. This is a very interesting stat. Did you know Mantle only grounded into 113 double plays in his entire 18-year career, whereas DiMaggio, look, he didn't ground into a ton either, but he grounded into 130, so more than Mantle in just 13 years of a career. I think Willie Mays is like 250. Now, he played longer than Mantle. But I always thought that was a very interesting stat, that Mantle very rarely grounded into a double play. Another one here, again, advanced stats. I understand they're not for everyone, me included. I'm not big into them, but OPS plus it's a very well-respected stat. And this just kind of leads into what you may have heard is that the advanced stats, they really, really favor Mickey Mantle when you look at his career. His career average OPS plus was 172, whereas DiMaggio's was really good too, but it was only 155. I think that's an important note to put in there. There's also something, I saw this recently. Now, take it with a grain of salt. Although the numbers are correct, I looked at them. This was in a Facebook Mickey Mantle fan group. So, but this was a post that I just saw recently. I wanted to read it here. Mickey's career OPS plus was 172, like I just mentioned, and he had 3 seasons over 200. For his 10-year prime, he put up 188 OPS plus on average from 1955 to 1964. In his first full 13 seasons, 52 through 64, he put up a 180. No one among his peers, not even Aaron and Mays, were doing anything like that. Mays' best season in 1965, he put up a 185. Mantle averaged better than that for 10 seasons. He averaged 188 over 10 seasons. And Mays' single best season would have been the 7th best season of Mantle's career. Hank Aaron's best season was 194 and would have been the 6th best season of Mantle's career. And then he says here, again, this is opinion, but Mantle was the greatest player in Major League Baseball during the 51-year period post-integration era up until the full PED era, so 48 through 98. That's his opinion. Moreover, he did something no player has ever done. He's a switch hitter who, for his career, averaged a 417 on-base percentage or higher and a 545 slugging percentage or higher from both sides of the plate. And during his prime, he got on base from both sides of the plate 45% of the time and slugged 600 or better. And then he closes it with, if we had analytics back in the 50s and 60s, Mantle's greatness and dominance of his era would have been far more apparent to us. At his peak, Mantle was worth nearly 1.3 runs per game in an era where combined scoring ranged from about 7 to 8 runs per game. So again, some of that's opinion, but that's pretty impressive when you really put it that way. So I wanted to mention that. The other thing I wanted to mention, not sure if you guys haven't read this book. This book here by Jane Levy, it's called The Last Boy. Came out pretty recently. I read this book, and what I like about this book is, like this Facebook group here, it's a Mickey Mantle fan group. It's all, it's mostly guys who just are huge Mantle fans and he could do no wrong type thing. It actually says on the head of the Facebook group, no mentions of Jane Levy's book, because this book is not just a butt-kissing book like some of the other ones of Mantle are, or some of the documentaries have been, that they paint Mantle in a light that it's not really accurate. He's a human being. That's part of the allure of Mickey Mantle, is that he was a flawed guy, a flawed character. But anyway, in this book, on page 431, it says, Bill James was a security guard. You guys, I'm sure you're familiar with Bill James. He was a security guard at the Stokely Van Camp Pork and Beans Factory in Kansas when he pioneered a formula for runs created that assessed credit for each run produced. 30 years later, Time magazine named him one of the most influential people in the world, and the Red Sox put him in their front office. You guys probably know that. In 2001, he unveiled a new formula for win shares. Again, I know everyone's not into the advanced stuff, but this is important. An extrapolation of runs created that calculates a player's contribution to every victory. The system compares players at different positions as well as players of different eras, enabling fantasy baseball to expand into uncharted hypothetical territory. According to his calculus, Mantle should have been the most valuable player 9 times, not the 3 times that he actually won the award. He led or tied the American League in win shares every year from 54 to 64, except 63 when he played only 65 games. When Cyril Morong, an economist turned sabermetrician, extrapolated win shares per at-bat, Mantle finished second only behind Babe Ruth. So there you go. Again, take it with a grain of salt, but I thought it was a cool thing there to note. Again, I don't think it's as clear cut. It seemed like, based on John's video and the comments, it was like not even a question. But I think it's a good debate, and I don't really see a clear answer, but I do think it's maybe DiMaggio had the better career stats and maybe he was the better player. I didn't watch either guy play. It's hard to say that. I don't ever feel confident talking about like how great players of the 40s, 50s, and 60s, or even before that were, because I never watched them. I feel like unless you really like when I grew up watching players in the the 90s and the 2000s, I feel like I can assess them pretty well because I rooted for and against them, and it was in big games, and I watched a lot of it, so I feel like I'm much more equipped to rank players or whatever from eras where I actually watched. So I'm not going to claim to know clearly, Mantle was better or DiMaggio was better, because I never saw him play. I've just seen clips, and we look at the numbers. We can look at the standard numbers or the advanced numbers, but the bottom line is they were, in my opinion, top 10 players of all time, both of them. You can rank that within, and maybe even put 1 or 2 of those guys in the top 5. But however you rank them, they're great players. And I don't think, though, the debate is as clear-cut as maybe you guys think it is, or maybe in that video, in the comments, that at least to me, it looked like people think it is. But another thing, probably for me, even more interesting than the debate of who was a better player, Rick Vintage Oddball Cards made a comment on John's video, and he said, John, everybody agrees with you, which, again, it seemed like everyone did, right? Everyone agreed that DiMaggio was better, I think, that watched John's video. Maybe not me, but... and he says, the question should be, why do they collect Mantle over Joe D? And again, I do think that's a very interesting question. It's a question, the broader question of why is Mickey Mantle the most expensive baseball player in the hobby to collect? When, if you look at the other sports, basketball, Michael Jordan, in my opinion, the clear greatest of all time. and his cards, generally speaking, sell for the highest prices. Tom Brady, same thing with football. Wayne Gretzky, same thing with hockey. Pele with soccer. But with baseball, I will definitely agree. Mickey Mantle was not the greatest baseball player of all time. Babe Ruth or whoever you want to say. But it wasn't Mantle. Okay, he could have been, but he wasn't. But unlike the other sports, Mantle's cards sell as if he was the GOAT in that sport. So it is a very interesting thing. And I've noticed over the last, since I've really been following the hobby on social media and YouTube, I feel like I have seen it so many times where, and in majority, I think a lot of it is people new to the hobby, younger people that don't understand why Mickey Mantle sells for the prices he does and why he's so popular when, he wasn't the greatest baseball player of all time. So I think that's a great question that Rick mentioned in the comments there. And before I give my opinion on that, I wanted to show a quick video clip here from the man himself.
How much does it surprise you, this outpouring of affection now for you? You were always a very popular player, but it's surged again now in the 80s and early 90s.
I guess it's the bubblegum card craze. I don't know. I have no way of knowing. I had one guy tell me one time what he thinks it is that like DiMaggio and Williams and those guys, they're kind of, they're like a little older now. The guys that are in control now, so to speak, are guys like you that was kids whenever I was playing. And now they're about 45 or 50 years old, and they got kids. And they tell them, I've had a lot of guys come through those bubblegum cards, tears in their eyes, and say, Mickey, it took me 30 years to get here, shake my hand. I've been waiting all this time. And then if they got a little boy, like the last card show I was in, guy said to his kids, his son, that's the greatest baseball player that's ever lived. And the little boy looked at me and he says, Daddy, he's an old man. But anyway, for some reason or other, and I guess that's what it is. I retired in 69, and from about 1969 to 74, when I went in the Hall of Fame, it was kind of like Mickey Mantle died, I went back to Dallas, Texas, and we had Mickey Mantle country cooking and a couple of bowling alleys and stuff like that, but nothing seemed to be going good, and it didn't make any difference where I went. Nobody cared, and that wasn't, I have people too come through those lines and say, don't you get tired of signing your name, or tired of this? And I sure don't. It's really flattering, and that they'd even want my autograph, and then to brag on me and it's flattering as it can be, and I don't get tired of it. I really like it. But for some reason or other, I have come back. And it seems like now that I'm more popular than I was when I played.
So I thought that was a great video. Obviously, we could, if you think about that question, why is Mickey Mantle the most popular? Why do his card prices sell for the most? Obviously the 52 Topps card plays a role. I think the timing of when he played is huge. He was the golden boy of the golden era, the 50s and 60s, whereas DiMaggio played before that. So Mantle it was the timing. It was the card, the 52 Topps card, that catapults all other Mantle cards and just catapulted him so far ahead in the hobby. But I think sometimes it gets overlooked, the aspect that Mantle just talked about in that video, which is he really grew even more popular in his post-playing days because of the hobby. And he really, I think more so than, now obviously I wasn't at these card shows, but from what I've heard, he embraced card shows and becoming a collectible player and signing autographs and memorabilia way more than some of his other contemporaries maybe did. And just from hearing stories, he was a little more outgoing and a little more friendly, a little more engaging than some of these other guys maybe were at these card shows. And I think that is a big reason why he grew in popularity after his playing days and why he is the king of the sports card hobby. Also, I think there's a big difference between being a Mantle fan or Mickey Mantle homer, like honestly you see in some of these Facebook groups where it's a little delusional, but there's a difference between that and what I think I've always been, which is a fan of the story of Mickey Mantle, the life story of Mickey Mantle. So like, growing up as a kid, my dad, part of the story of Mickey Mantle was not, he was the best baseball player ever. He was, that was never part of the story. The story was he was the most gifted and skilled player ever. He was the fastest ever to first base, and he invented the tape measure home run. He could hit him from both sides of the plate. And then, as a rookie, he hurts his knee. And then he goes through his career injured. And then the life part of it, where he was convinced throughout growing up and through his career that he was going to die before the age of 40, like his dad did and his uncles. So he didn't take care of himself. He lived a carefree life and made bad decisions and drank too much and didn't take care of his body. And then it becomes a cautionary tale of he wasted some of his skill and talent and natural abilities that he was given. And so it's a story of what if, or what could have been, which sometimes is even more attractive of a story to follow and be interested in, a story of what could have been than a story of what actually happened. And then, as he lives longer than he thought he ever was going to. He even has the famous quote, "If I knew I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself." So it was stuff like that where he was always just a very, from his interviews and things that I've read, he was a very self-deprecating guy. He was not, I'm sure he had an ego like any Hall of Fame baseball player, but he was not, it didn't seem like he had an ego of the likes of, let's say, a Joe DiMaggio, who it's, I think, well known that one of the things after his playing career was over, anytime Joe DiMaggio was introduced anywhere, he insisted that he be referred to as the greatest living player. Okay, so, take that for what you want. But Mickey Mantle it seemed like he was a different type of guy, where he was more self-deprecating, maybe not as much of a narcissist or an egomaniac as some of these other guys are, and more of a man of the people, so to speak, where, look, of course, he made, there's some well-documented things that Mantle did that are not good, okay? He made tons of mistakes. He was drunk a lot of the time, and he was just, didn't do the right thing in a lot of cases. But in the end, he lives a lot longer than he thought he was going to. In his final months or whatever, he, in some form, many have said this, that he becomes the hero that everyone always thought he was, but he actually became it in his final days. Where he spoke out about his alcoholism, and he spoke out about organ donation. I've read somewhere that they can attribute thousands of lives saved from organ donation because of Mickey Mantle sharing his story and being so vocal in the final days about his mistakes and owning up to it and not being too proud of a person to say the mistakes he made. He was upfront about them, and I think a lot of people benefited, and a lot of people loved Mickey Mantle even more after that. So, a couple questions, and it goes into this card here. Who is the better player? That's a great debate. Why is Mickey Mantle the most popular player? But here's a couple other questions, right? Especially with Joe DiMaggio and Mickey Mantle. Of those two, who is tougher? Who is the tougher player? Mickey Mantle or Joe DiMaggio? Who is the better teammate? Mickey Mantle or Joe DiMaggio? So, to cap this off here, this card that I showed, I picked this one because this has always been one of the coolest images. What you have here is a 91 score insert. And this is a picture of Mickey Mantle and one of his bad influence buddies, Billy Martin, apparently all ready to go out in the Big Apple. And this was part of a 7-card insert series where, if you look on the back, another reason Mickey Mantle is the most collectible player ever, he's just got such a beautiful autograph. So this one here, again, I don't think anyone knows for sure, but I read, I think it was on Baseball Cardpedia, that these autographed Mantle cards in 91 score are like 1 in every 30,000 packs. That's what they estimate the odds to be. So this one here, the rookie, got a great signature on the back. And I think it's fitting because it's a picture of Mantle off the field. And I think it speaks to a lot of the history of Mickey Mantle. He did some all-time great things on the field, but a lot of Mickey Mantle's story and what makes his life so interesting is not just on the field, but his life off the field. How he grew up, his family history, how he died, how he acted off the field. So I'd love to get your opinions on all these questions. I think it's fun. So feel free to make a response to this. Feel free to leave comments, and thank you for watching.